Hello. And can Africans benefit from the situation that is going on in the world? Especially if I take, for example, the Russians and Ukraine, or the Russian and West countries. Since we know Africans have the one of the largest petroleum reserve, and we have seen that there is a very good market in, or a very good opportunity that has emerged from the conflict between Westerns and Russia. Since Western countries decided to put sanctions, and Russia decided to use their petroleum as a weapon. And we have seen that OPEC, Organization of Petroleum Exporting Countries, have increased instead of reducing the price. And also, Western countries, most of them, are feeling more like they don't have petroleum, and it is almost a summer where they normally use this oil or petroleum energy to prevent cold, since now no one is using. And a timber or a trees a coal for source of a fire for source of heat. Now, why does African Union, or like for example ECOWAS, most of the Western countries, West Africans have, and also North Africans have the largest petroleum deposit in the region? Why don't they sit down and come up with a strategy for selling and filling that gap? And yes, now most of our youth are educated. We don't miss a youth with the skills. And also, it will bring us a lot of resources. We don't import our workers, since most of the populations in Africa are youth. Why can our African leaders not sit down and see wherever there's a problem, or there's things, or there's a small opportunity? Like for example, let us take one example. The guy who is leading Turkey currently, the president of Turkey, Recep Tayyip Erdogan. That guy, I must admit, is very wise enough to take an opportunity, whatever happens. During coronavirus, he was the only country who the economy was increasing, because in 2019, the moment he heard that there was a coronavirus in China, he started producing most PPE, the personal protective equipment. He exported a lot in different countries. He sold a lot, though he didn't produce medicines. You see, when during these fightings with Russia and Ukraine, he's selling his drone UAV, the Patriot R2B2, to Ukraine. At the same time, he's providing a political support for Russia. He's the only one who receive and call from both parties at the same day. He's the only one who can meet, who can negotiate in an extent that recently Vladimir Putin was saying that I will use the route to Turkey for exporting petroleum, of which make Turkey to receive a certain percentage from the profit. You see, the resource is not his. He's not the one who is constructing it. Just because he's providing for the security and his land is being used, that's how he received the profits. And now, he's the one who negotiated the exportation of wheat. That's where Africa comes in again. Most part of African region are suitable for farming because there is no part in Africa that is too much cold that in an extent it has an ice. No, it is, there's some part that is very cold, and at that places there's a suitable plantation to grow at certain conditions. And in Africa you can plant 24/7 12 months of a year, because in other part like Europe there's a time that you can't plant anything because everywhere is covered by an ice. Unlike Africa you can plant anything you want in any part. All you want is just a procedure for irrigations. And why don't you think that how much does an African country, just let us say western part of Kenya, western part of Kenya, just a small area, if we plant whole parts, can it not feed the whole Africa? If Ukraine wheat was providing almost 60 or the largest part of the world, why not Africa? What happened to us? The problem is before colonization, we were depending on hunters and farmings because we used to provide ourselves. We used to hunt to get food on the table. We used to do farmings to provide what we eat. We used to herd our kettles, milk our kettles, drink our milks that we harvested from kettles. So why don't we sit down and look now the way the world is going on? The moment that the Russians and Ukraine started fighting, India announced that they will not export their wheat. Egypt announced that they will not export their wheat. I think Pakistan, most of the part of the world announced that they are just producing a small amount, and that amount they will not export, because wheat is what most part of the world is living. Wheat is being used to provide wheat flour, which is being used for baking cake, breakfast, those who use any kind of breakfast in the morning. Wheat become an essential things or essentials food in the world. So why don't we sit down and come up with a strategy of feeding ourselves instead of depending on foreign donations? Do you know the worst part of it is? Those they call what let us down mostly is the donations or United Nations aid, because you might receive a sack of wheat or a sack of what do they call maize, but if you were told that provide for yourself what you eat, as our ancestors used to do. We farm a certain piece of land, we divide into two, we sell, we eat what we are supposed to, and what the remaining we sell. How do you think that it will affect on our life? Don't you think it has a positive effect on our life? And as the situation that is going on in the world is worsening, you must think that Africa should think of themselves. Because now, this war might turn into a nuclear war. So, most part of the world will be exempted from the other one. Though we don't involve in anything beyond the boundaries of Africa, because we don't have that power. But what will happen if the world went into a war? Because we import everything. You now sit down, look at what is next to you. Just even look at the toothbrush you use. Look at sometimes even the matchbox we might import. So we import different types of vaccines while we have professors of pharmacologists. We even sometimes import books while we have plantations where we can use to produce our own books. So what do we want? And how do we want? And the most important question is, if our forefathers fought and give us this freedom that we are living now, what will we provide for our children so that they will say, this is what our fathers or our forefathers have provided for us in 21st century? Thank you very much.